He bought an old ship for 50 credits, then found what no miner dared. Touch Elior Vance wiped the sweat from his forehead, letting the grit of the mining colony stick to his fingers for a moment longer. The air in the orbital station hung heavy with dust, the scent of scorched metal and recycled oxygen pressing against his senses. Most of the miners had already left for the day, hauling their small payloads back to the freighters docked in the station's hangars. But Elior lingered, scanning the terminals for any notice of opportunity. He had barely enough credits to last another week, let alone pay for a proper ship. Every day was a struggle. Odd jobs in mining, occasional courier runs, and repairing whatever machines the other miners broke. Life was hard, predictable, and tiring. Yet, Elior had always believed that fortune favored the bold, even if the bold often got burned. That was when the alert popped up on his worn terminal. Orbital auction notice. Ship lot number 502, priced at 50 credits. Elior blinked. 50 credits. That wasn't enough to feed a miner for a month, yet here it was, an actual ship. Old, probably broken, but a ship nonetheless. His heart skipped a beat. Most people would have ignored it, believing the rumors whispered across the mining colonies. The miner said the ship was cursed, abandoned for decades, left to rot in the graveyard orbit of Sector 9. Some claimed it had been used to mine forbidden crystals that drove crews insane. Others said it had been struck by a strange energy anomaly that fried all its systems. Nobody wanted it. Elior, however, did not see a curse. He saw opportunity. Within an hour, he was on the shuttle, headed toward the decrepit docking bay. The hangar lights flickered above, casting long shadows over the rows of old freighters and cargo vessels. There it was, lot number 502, smaller than he expected, coated in dust and grime, with one cracked viewport reflecting the dim light. The hull bore scars of some long-forgotten battle or accident. A series of dents and scorch marks hinted at mishaps, yet the shape of the ship was intact. Somehow, it had survived. A skeletal auction officer met him at the airlock. "You're lucky, kid. Nobody else bothered to bid. 50 credits is all it took." Elior handed over the credits, feeling the weight of every coin. The transfer went through, and the digital lock on the ship clicked open.
"Good luck," the officer muttered.
"You're gonna need it." Eller ignored the ominous tone. Luck, he knew, was made by those willing to try. The interior of the ship was worse than he imagined. Dust hung thick in the air, drifting lazily across the dim corridors. Broken panels exposed a tangle of wires, sparks of static occasionally crackling through them. A faint metallic smell, mixed with rust, filled his nostrils. He moved carefully, noting the odd layout. Most of the systems had been stripped or were offline. Yet as he explored, he noticed something strange. A hidden panel in the floor had been carefully sealed with old scratched-over markings. The console in the cockpit showed signs of partial encryption, but the symbols were unfamiliar. Alien, or perhaps a forgotten human code. Elior's curiosity flared. This was not just an abandoned ship. It was a relic. He spent hours crawling through the corridors, inspecting every corner. In the maintenance bay, he found old tools scattered across the floor, some of which were entirely alien in design. One console flickered weakly when he touched it, and a low hum seemed to come from the cargo hold. Something alive, something hidden. By the time Elior had finished his first inspection, the station lights outside had shifted, signaling the end of the orbital day. He decided to rest, leaning against the ship's wall. It felt strange, almost welcoming, despite its age. The ship seemed aware of him. Sleep came uneasily. Elior's dreams were haunted by flickers of light and echoes of voices he couldn't understand. When he awoke, he felt a shiver crawl down his spine. Something in the ship had changed overnight. He couldn't explain it, but a small panel near the cockpit was now slightly open, as if inviting him to explore further. Elior spent the next morning scavenging tools from the nearby junkyard. Bits of metal, broken wiring, and old energy cells. All could be useful. He returned to the ship, determined to bring at least some systems back online. The air filtration units, though weak, sputtered to life after careful tinkering. The lights in the corridors flickered once, then steadied. Every small success boosted Elior's confidence. The ship, dismissed by everyone else, was responding to him. Where others saw danger, he saw a challenge and a puzzle. As he worked, he couldn't ignore the rumors that had surrounded the ship for decades. No miner dared touch it, they said. That warning now seemed like a dare, and Elior loved dares. The deeper he explored, the more anomalies he discovered. Locked compartments, cryptic symbols on walls, strange energy readings from deep within the hold. Each hint was like a whisper from the past, teasing him with secrets. The first real discovery came when he accessed the lower cargo hold. A heavy hatch, obscured by layers of dust and rust, resisted his attempts to open it. It took hours, but eventually, a combination of brute force and clever leverage allowed him to lift it. The hold beneath was dark, nearly black, and the air felt colder, heavier. Inside, Elior's flashlight caught on rows of crystalline formations, glowing faintly with an inner light. They pulsed almost rhythmically, like a heartbeat. At first he thought they were some kind of alien mineral, but they were unlike anything he had ever seen. The energy readings from his scanner were off the charts, fluctuating wildly. Any misstep could trigger a catastrophic reaction. Elior stepped back. His heart raced, not with fear, but with excitement. Here lay something that everyone else had avoided. Something valuable, something dangerous. Something that had been untouched for decades because no one had the courage or the curiosity to look. He spent the rest of the day documenting every crystal, every strange console, and every anomaly. His mind buzzed with possibilities. If he could understand even a fraction of what this ship held, it could change his life forever. The derelict vessel, bought for mere credits, was no longer junk. It was a treasure chest of forgotten knowledge, of lost technology, and perhaps even a key to mysteries the galaxy had long abandoned. As the orbital night fell once again, Elior stood at the ship's cockpit viewport, staring out at the black void of space. Stars twinkled coldly, distant and indifferent. Yet, in the shadow of those stars, he felt a spark of human determination, the kind that had driven explorers for millennia. The ship hummed softly beneath him, as if acknowledging his presence. Elior smiled. He knew the real adventure was just beginning. Whatever secrets the ship held, he was ready to uncover them. No miner dared touch it, but he had. And that made all the difference. Elior settled into the pilot's chair, tools at hand, systems half-functional, and a sense of purpose thrumming in his veins. Tomorrow, he would begin repairs in earnest. Tomorrow, he would dive deeper into the mysteries that no human had dared confront. For now, he closed his eyes, letting the ship's strange hum lull him into a restless sleep. The stars outside seemed to whisper promises of danger and discovery. Elior didn't care about danger. Discovery was what mattered. And in the cold, dark reaches of space, a human had taken the first step into a story that would change not only his life, but perhaps the galaxy itself. Elior woke to the soft hum of the ship's newly revived systems. The air inside the vessel smelled less like rust and dust now, thanks to his repairs. Small lights flickered along the corridors, revealing shadows of the ship's hidden corners. Every panel he had touched seemed to respond, as if the ship itself was curious about him. He moved carefully to the cockpit, running his hands over the cracked console screens. He had managed to restore partial power, enough to run life support, lights, and basic navigation. But the larger systems, propulsion, shields, energy distribution, remained dead or heavily damaged. Even so, Elior felt a thrill. Most humans would have walked away, seeing only rust, dust, and danger. He saw potential. The first task of the day was exploring the lower cargo hold. The strange crystals he had glimpsed yesterday continued to intrigue him. He had measured their energy output with a portable scanner, but the results were erratic. Some readings spiked while others dropped to near zero. They pulsed faintly, almost like a heartbeat, and Elior could not help but feel that the ship was alive in some way. He stepped carefully into the hold, shining his flashlight across the crystalline formations. The glow cast eerie, dancing reflections on the walls. It was beautiful and dangerous at the same time. Elior could feel the hum of energy in the air, a vibration that seemed to seep into his bones. He crouched near one of the larger crystals, noting its unusual shape. It was transparent, almost like ice, but solid, and the energy core inside glimmered like molten metal trapped in glass. "Whatever you are," Elior muttered, "you're not like anything in any mining report." Hours passed as he documented the crystals, measuring energy fluctuations and mapping their positions. He discovered several smaller compartments hidden behind loose panels. Each contained parts of the ship's original mining equipment: drills, energy converters, and autonomous drones. Many of these devices were ancient, covered in corrosion, yet when Elior touched them, some flickered with life. He realized these were mining drones, programmed for work that no human could safely attempt alone. But the drones had not been maintained for decades, and their AI cores were partially damaged. Elior's excitement grew. If he could repair them, they could be a tremendous help in stabilizing the ship and even exploring hazardous areas in space. But Elior was not the only one aware of the ship's potential. Rumors of the derelict vessel were never entirely forgotten. As he worked, he received a coded message on a small concealed terminal he had reactivated. The message was simple: "Stay away. The crystals are forbidden. Others will die if you touch them." The sender was unknown, but the tone was clear. The ship held danger. Most humans, and certainly most miners, would have abandoned it entirely. Elior, however, was not most humans. He felt a thrill at the warning. Danger had always been part of discovery. By evening, Elior had managed to restore partial control of the drones. One of them, a small wheeled machine with a long extendable arm, activated fully when he booted it. Its sensors lit up, and it immediately scanned the surrounding crystals. The drone transmitted data directly to Elior's portable console, displaying readings of energy stability, structural integrity, and unknown compounds. He realized that this was more than a mining ship. The crystals were not ordinary minerals. They were something alive, or at least semi-sentient. The energy they emitted could power star systems, perhaps even entire colonies, if controlled properly. But mishandled, it could explode, vaporize the ship, or worse. Night fell, and Elior continued working. Outside the ship, the orbital station was quiet. Few people ventured near the abandoned dock, and the flickering lights of distant freighters reflected off the dark metal hull of the old vessel. Elior felt isolated, yet strangely at peace. This was his world now, a human alone against the unknown. The first real test came when he tried to move one of the larger crystals using the drones. The moment the mechanical arms made contact, the crystal pulsed violently, sending a shockwave through the cargo hold. Lights flickered, and Elior was thrown back by the force. The drones paused, beeping warnings. Elior's heart raced, but he smiled. "This is why no miner dared touch you," he said aloud, brushing dust from his clothes. "But I can do this. I will do this." He spent hours recalibrating the drones, adjusting their energy shields, and programming them for precise, careful movements. Slowly, carefully, he began to reposition the crystals into a stable formation. It was tedious, dangerous work, but Elior thrived on it. Each small success fueled his determination. As the day turned into night again, the ship began to change subtly. Panels that had been completely dark flickered. The hum of energy grew stronger, and the air itself felt charged. Elior could swear that the ship was watching, reacting to his actions. It was as if it had been waiting for someone with enough curiosity and courage to awaken it. The next morning, Elior discovered a small console hidden beneath the cockpit floor. It had been completely sealed off from view, but now, with power partially restored, it displayed faint symbols. The characters were strange, elongated shapes that shifted and rearranged themselves as he watched. Elior studied them carefully, cross-referencing old mining logs, alien glyph dictionaries, and anything he could find on the station's databanks. After hours of work, the symbols began to make sense. They were instructions, encrypted coordinates, maintenance routines, and safety protocols. The console also hinted at a larger system hidden deeper in the ship, something the previous miners had feared, something so dangerous that even automated AI had shut it down. Curiosity burned in Ellier's chest. He decided to explore further, venturing into the lower decks where the main energy conduits ran. The corridors here were narrower, the metal groaning under the weight of decades. Sparks occasionally erupted from exposed wiring, sending tiny arcs of light dancing across the walls. He stepped carefully, every movement precise, knowing that one mistake could damage the ship. Or worse. At the very bottom, he found a hatch unlike any other. It was reinforced, etched with symbols similar to those on the console. The lock appeared ancient yet sophisticated, requiring both mechanical skill and mental calculation to bypass. Elior's hands moved quickly, using all the tools and knowledge he had accumulated. Slowly the hatch gave way. Inside was a chamber bathed in faint, pulsating light. More crystals filled the room, larger and more radiant than the ones above. The air vibrated with energy. Elior could feel it in his bones. The room also contained dormant machines, devices that seemed to study and interact with the crystals. They hummed faintly, as if waiting for someone to awaken them. Elior understood now why no miner had dared enter this room. The energy was raw, untamed, and unpredictable. A single misstep could trigger disaster. And yet, he did not feel fear. He felt awe. He felt challenge. And above all, he felt determination. That night, as he rested in the cockpit, he reviewed the data from the lower chamber. The crystal's energy patterns were not random. They followed a rhythm, a logic he could not yet decipher. The AI cores in the drones were partially compatible with this system, but only a human mind could see the connections, understand the flow, and predict the dangers. Elior knew that the next steps would be critical. He would have to interface directly with the ship's systems, using both his mind and his hands, balancing caution with daring. He also knew that he was not the only one aware of the ship's potential. Rivals, thieves, and greedy miners would not ignore the reactivation of such a treasure for long. For now, though, he allowed himself a small moment of pride. He had awakened the forgotten. He had begun to understand the ship. He had dared to touch what no miner had dared, and as he looked out at the black, endless void of space, Elior felt the hum of the ship beneath him, almost like a heartbeat. It was waiting. It was alive. And together they would uncover the secrets that lay hidden for decades. The adventure was only beginning. Elior Vance had been awake since the orbital dawn, barely sleeping in the excitement of discovery. The ship hummed beneath him like a living creature, responding to every adjustment he made to the ancient drones and systems. The energy crystals in the lower hold pulsed faintly, synchronized in a rhythm he could almost, but not quite, understand. The ship had secrets, and he was determined to unlock them. Today he would try something new. Interface with the ship's ancient AI. He had discovered a small terminal hidden beneath the cockpit floor yesterday. Its symbols were strange, unlike any language he had ever encountered. But after hours of decoding, he realized it contained fragments of memory, incomplete logs, and instructions. The AI had once overseen the mining of these crystals, controlling drones, monitoring energy flows, and keeping the cargo stable. Elior took a deep breath. "Let's see if you want to wake up," he whispered to the console. His fingers flew over the panel, connecting circuits, stabilizing power, and feeding just enough energy to the system. Sparks flickered briefly, then died out. The ship seemed to hold its breath. And then, a voice. "Who disturbs my slumber?" Elior froze. The voice was mechanical but had personality. Slightly sarcastic, almost gruff, like someone who had been awake too long and was annoyed at being disturbed. I'm Elior Vance," he said, trying not to sound nervous. "I bought the ship. I'm trying to understand it." "Bought it? 50 credits? The AI responded, its tone incredulous. "You humans are either brave or foolish. Very well. You may proceed. Carefully. These crystals are not toys." Elior smiled, feeling a strange connection to the voice. It was not just a machine. It was a partner, a guide, and perhaps even a mentor.
I don't want to hurt anything. I just want to understand.
Understanding requires observation, calculation, and caution. Not all who approach survive. The AI flickered, then identified itself as Veyron, an ancient system designed to monitor and protect the crystals. Its memory logs revealed a startling truth. These crystals were not ordinary minerals. They were semi-sentient energy forms, mined by an extinct alien civilization known as the Orithans. Their purpose had been lost to time, but the logs suggested immense power, enough to fuel star systems, but also enough to destroy them. Eller listened intently. So that's why everyone avoided them. Yes. No miner dared touch these crystals for decades. Your survival depends on your caution and intellect. One misstep, and the energy may release uncontrollably. The warnings did not frighten Elior. They invigorated him. Humans were curious by nature. Where others fled, humans approached. Where others feared, humans calculated. The risk was high, yes, but so was the reward. Over the next few hours, Elior worked with Veyron to analyze the energy flow. The AI guided him, explaining how the crystals interacted with the ship's power system and the drones he had partially repaired. The process was painstaking. Each adjustment required delicate timing, precise calibration, and constant monitoring. One wrong move could send a pulse through the cargo hold, shattering crystals or overloading the circuits. By midday, Elior had made progress. The drones were fully operational now, capable of lifting and stabilizing smaller crystals under Veyron's guidance. The pulsing of the energy cores had slowed, becoming more regular, almost like a heartbeat synchronized with the ship itself. But Elior knew that the largest crystals remained untouched. Their power was immense, and their energy output unpredictable. The AI warned him repeatedly, its mechanical voice tinged with impatience. Do not attempt to touch the larger crystals until you have fully stabilized the minor cores. I understand, Elior said. I won't rush. Yet Elior was not alone in this awakening. Word of the derelict ship had traveled farther than he realized. From a shadowy corner of the orbital station, a rival miner named Corin Dace had been monitoring communications. Corin was notorious for taking risks for personal gain and had heard rumors of the crystals. He believed that Elior had stumbled onto a fortune and decided that the ship would be his. Corin's approach was stealthy. He had no intention of negotiating. Humans, he believed, were too cautious. He preferred force. By nightfall, he and a small group of hired mercenaries infiltrated the abandoned dock, cutting through security measures with ease. Elior, unaware of the intruders, continued working in the lower hold. The first encounter came suddenly. A loud clank echoed from the upper corridor, followed by a metallic scraping sound. Elior froze, recognizing the sound of heavy boots and the hiss of airlocks opening. His heart raced. He had hoped he was alone, but someone had found the ship. Who's there? Elior called, keeping his voice calm. A voice answered, low and mocking. Elior Vance, I presume? Step away from the ship. Those crystals belong to me now.
Elior frowned. I don't think so.
I bought the ship fair and square, and you... He didn't finish. He had an idea. The drones. Veyron, he whispered. Ready the drones. Defensive protocol.
The AI's voice was calm, almost approving, initiating defense. Non-lethal measures recommended.
Humans are fragile but clever. Suddenly, the drones activated. Small mechanical arms extended, lights flashed, and sensors locked onto Corin and his mercenaries. The intruders had not expected resistance. A few of the drones moved quickly, forming barriers, deploying nets, and projecting electromagnetic pulses to disable weapons. Chaos erupted. Corin cursed as his blaster sparked against the drones' shields. The mercenaries stumbled over equipment, struggling to regain control. Elior, calm and precise, manipulated the drones like a conductor guiding an orchestra. Every pulse, every movement was calculated to protect the crystals while keeping the intruders alive. You humans are insane, Corin shouted, dodging a drone arm. Step aside! and maybe I'll let you live, Elior smirked. You'll have to do better than that. The standoff continued, tension building. But the AI whispered advice in Elior's mind, guiding the drones with surgical precision. Slowly, the intruders were forced back, blocked by energy barriers and immobilized by electromagnetic nets. Corin's face twisted with frustration. He realized that brute force alone would not win here. Hours passed. Eventually, Corin and his team retreated, unable to bypass Elior's defenses or the AI's strategic guidance. Elior watched them disappear into the night, breathing a quiet sigh of relief. He had won, not by firepower, but by human ingenuity and the careful application of technology. Afterward, Elior returned to the lower hold. The crystals pulsed gently now, synchronized with the ship's energy grid. The AI spoke, its voice calm. You are clever, Elior. Few humans could coordinate so effectively under stress. You understand, adapt, and anticipate. That is why you survived. Elior smiled. We make a good team, Baron, but this is just the beginning. I still need to understand the larger crystals. Patience. The larger cores are more complex, more dangerous. But I believe you have the mind to handle them. Elior nodded. He knew the stakes had risen. The crystals were powerful, coveted, and dangerous. Others would not stop trying to take them. But he also knew that humans had something the intruders lacked: ingenuity, courage, and the ability to think beyond brute force. As he prepared for the next day's work, Elior felt a sense of anticipation. The Forbidden Hold had revealed its first secrets, but the greatest mysteries and the greatest challenges lay ahead. And he was ready. Outside, the stars of the orbital station twinkled coldly, distant and indifferent. Inside, a human and an AI had begun a partnership that could change the balance of power in the galaxy. And the crystals waited, silent and pulsing, for the human bold enough to understand them. Elior Vance had dared to touch what no miner had dared, and now he would dare even more. Elior Vance stared at the pulsing light of the largest crystal in the Forbidden Hold. It was breathtaking, tall, clear, with veins of molten energy flowing inside like trap lightning. The crystal's rhythm matched the hum of the ship itself, resonating through the floors and walls. Elior had never seen anything like it. It was beautiful, dangerous, and alive. He glanced at Veyron's console. The AI's voice, calm and steady, cut through the low hum. Elior, the core energy is unstable. Direct contact without careful preparation could trigger catastrophic discharge.
I know, Elior replied.
His fingers hovered over the controls. But we can do this! We just have to think smart. Veyron gave a mechanical sigh, though Elior could detect a hint of respect in its tone. Humans are remarkably stubborn. Very well. Initiate stabilization sequence. Elior activated the drones. They moved with precision, positioning auxiliary energy conduits around the crystal. Each conduit pulsed in time with the crystal, drawing off excess energy. He monitored the energy levels carefully, adjusting drone output to maintain equilibrium. It was delicate work. One miscalculation could end in disaster. Minutes stretched into hours. Sweat ran down Elior's brow, but he did not stop. He had learned that patience, observation, and intelligence were the keys to survival and success. Slowly, the crystal's erratic pulses began to stabilize, harmonizing with the ship's systems. There, he said, finally stepping back. The crystal glowed steadily, its rhythm calm and even. We did it. Indeed. Very few humans could accomplish this. You have demonstrated remarkable ingenuity and courage. Elior allowed himself a small smile. The Forbidden Hold, once feared by miners for decades, now seemed almost peaceful. He had tamed its energy, not through brute force, but through understanding. But triumph was short-lived. As Elior was organizing the drones and reinforcing the containment shields, the ship's sensors detected movement outside. Corin Dace, the rival miner, was back, and he wasn't alone. This time, He had brought a fleet of hired mercenaries and heavy weapons. They were determined to take the crystals by force. Elor's heart raced, but he did not panic. He had the ship, the AI, and his drones. He also had something far more valuable than weapons: human ingenuity. "Veyron," he whispered, "we're going to need a plan." "Understood." Initiating defense protocols and non-lethal deterrence. The drones activated instantly, forming barriers, deploying nets, and projecting electromagnetic pulses. But Elior knew that strategy alone would not stop a fleet. He needed to outthink them, to turn their strength into weakness. He accessed the ship's navigation systems and identified the cargo hold's energy conduits. A risky idea formed. He could use the crystal's energy to create a temporary controlled power surge, not enough to destroy the ship, but enough to disable the attacker's systems. He turned to Veyron. "Think we can pull it off?" "With careful timing, yes. But precision is critical. One error, and both the ship and crystals could be destroyed." Elior nodded. "We've come this far. We can do this." As Corrin's fleet approached the docking bay, Elior coordinated the drones to herd the intruder ships into a narrow passage. The humans were cautious, expecting resistance, but they did not anticipate the sudden strategic use of the crystal's energy. Elor monitored the conduits carefully, building a controlled surge. The moment arrived. A pulse of energy surged through the ship's hull, radiating outward. The intruder ships shuddered, their shields failing, engines stuttering. They were not harmed, but they were immobilized. Panic rippled through Corrin's ranks. "Elia Vance!" Corrin shouted through the comms. "Stop this. You don't know what you're doing." "I know exactly what I'm doing," Elior replied calmly. "And you're not getting these crystals. Not by force." The mercenaries scrambled, trying to repair their systems, but the pulse had already disrupted their coordination. One by one they retreated, their ships limping away from the orbital dock. Corrin glared at Elior, furious, but he knew he had lost. After the last ship vanished, Elior exhaled, feeling the tension drain from his body. He had survived, not because of firepower, but because he had thought, adapted, and used the tools he had intelligently. He had proven that human creativity and courage were unmatched, even against overwhelming force. Veyron's voice sounded approving. "Humans are unpredictable. I must admit you have exceeded my calculations." Elior chuckled. "Thanks. Couldn't have done it without you." With the immediate threat gone, Elior turned back to the crystals. They pulsed gently now, integrated with the ship's systems and the drones. He realized that the derelict vessel, once considered worthless, had become a living, functioning starship. It was powered by the crystals, guided by the AI, and protected by drones, essentially an advanced vessel capable of exploring dangerous regions of space. Over the next several days, Elor worked tirelessly to fully integrate the ship's systems. Veyron guided him in calibrating the crystal's energy, ensuring safe distribution throughout the ship. The drones acted as both assistants and guardians, stabilizing the environment and performing repairs faster than any human could alone. He discovered new features hidden in the ship's design: propulsion systems that could manipulate gravitational fields, shields that absorbed energy rather than deflecting it, and navigation systems capable of reading cosmic anomalies in real time. It was as if the ship itself had been waiting for a mind capable of understanding its complexity. Elior smiled. Humanity had always been underestimated in the galaxy, seen as fragile and reckless. But here he was, alone against both alien technology and human greed. And he had triumphed, not through raw strength, but through ingenuity, patience, and courage. Word of his success soon reached other miners and explorers. Some were curious, some cautious. But all had to acknowledge the truth. Humans could achieve what others thought impossible. Elor had turned what everyone else considered junk into the most advanced ship in the sector. One evening, as he floated in the cockpit watching the stars drift past, Elior reflected on the journey. He had started with a simple derelict vessel bought for 50 credits. He had faced danger, isolation, and greed. He had worked with an AI, tamed semi-sentient crystals, and outsmarted rivals. And now, the ship was ready for exploration, discovery, and adventure. "Ready for the next step?" Veyran asked, its voice calm and almost cheerful. Elior nodded. "More than ready. Let's see what the galaxy has to offer." The stars outside twinkled in the darkness, indifferent to the struggles of one human in an old ship. Yet inside the cockpit there was life, determination, and brilliance. Together, Elior and the ship had proven something vital. Humans were clever, courageous, and capable of rising to challenges that others would never dare face. The journey was just beginning. There were uncharted systems to explore, unknown civilizations to encounter, and mysteries that had remained hidden for eons. With the AI guiding him and the ship powered by the crystals, Elior was no longer just a miner scraping by on scraps. He was a pioneer, a human who had turned the impossible into reality. He took a deep breath, the hum of the ship vibrating gently. This was the reward for curiosity, courage, and ingenuity. The galaxy was vast, dangerous, and full of secrets, but humans had proved they could rise above, even when all odds were against them. And somewhere deep in the blackness of space, the derelict ship, now a marvel of technology, bravery, and human determination, glided silently, ready for adventure. Elior smiled, gripping the controls. "Let's go," he said, and for the first time in his life, he felt the true meaning of freedom, discovery, and human potential.